Hello from the 2019 Global Legal Hackathon in New York City, New York. My name is Laurence Colletti, and I'm the host for today's show. Joining me now from, I think, literally the other side of the world, I have Brian Tang and Cori Goudchaux joining us from Hong Kong. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Hey, welcome. How are you, Laurence?
Hey, Laurence.
Doing well. I am certain that our globe trotter, Cory, is very tired at this point. I think you are actually going to go around the earth on this trip. Is that correct?
I am completely around the world. I started LA, hit New York, on to Israel, then into Istanbul, Turkey, and finishing up in Hong Kong. Heading back home.
Well, you're like the Carmen Sandiego of San Clemente.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Where in the world?
Or the Where's Waldo.
That's right. I actually dressed up as Where's Waldo for Halloween. I was the sole Where's Waldo in a flock of Beetlejuices. It was a strange night.
Sounds like it.
So, well, anyway, I just wanted, before we got into the interview to Cory, some of our listeners may not be familiar with you or your work with Integra Ledger, but why don't we start with that? Why don't we start with your bios? So, Cory, why don't you tell us where do you work, what do you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name's Cori Goudchaux. I am the Vice President of Integra Ledger and Chief of Staff. I was also one of the founding team members for the Global Legal Blockchain Consortium and also the GLH, which has brought me here. I work primarily in the blockchain space with large corporate legals and other avenues such as the real estate vertical that we've just launched. So yeah, happy to be here. This is my second time around the world for GLH and always a great time. Always enjoy seeing what everybody comes up with.
That's awesome. And how about you, Brian?
Well, shortish version, I trained as a lawyer, did my articles at Mallesons, what was in Mallesons in Australia, moved to New York, joined Sullivan Cromwell in New York and including Silicon Valley during the dot-com period doing IPOs. Then got headhunted to join Credit Suisse. So from private practice in New York to in-house in Hong Kong at Credit Suisse covering investment banking, ECM, DSM, M&A. And then a few years ago, my wife, I think, calls it a midlife crisis. I left and I joined Startup Land.
Yeah.
So these days I have at least three capacities. One is I'm the founder of ACMI, and we do a lot of work in the reg tech space and AI governance and the like. The second is I have a new role at Hong Kong University. I curated a new initiative called Light Lab at HKU. Light stands for Law, Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. And it's an interdisciplinary and experiential. And the third is I run a social enterprise called Young Makers and Change Makers. So it's really about inclusive STEAM education.
Oh, that's excellent. So Brian and Cory, one of the questions we've been asking everybody, so we're doing the hackathon from New York City here over at the Microsoft office and also at Orc. There was 2 locations over here. So very exciting, got to see some very nice venues. One of the questions we've been asking everybody is why are you getting involved in the hackathon? I mean, obviously, everybody's volunteering a weekend. There's a lot of work to do. People are traveling great distances to create these new products and services. So I think to each of you, why are you involved in this worldwide project? Let's start with Brian.
Well, for me, the story I tell is this. After coming into Startup Land, I've been involved in hackathons and the way that startups have to react and work after, with a background in big law and big bank. And then when I heard about Global Legal Hackathon earlier last year, I thought this was awesome, right? Finally, hackathon for lawyers. So I looked around to see who was going to organize it, and nobody was doing it. So I thought to myself, okay, right. I put up my hand. Okay, if I organize it, who else is willing to come in? So I was lucky enough to get Thomson Reuters on as a sponsor. And so they were the co-host in terms of the venue as well as the F&B. So I said, great, I can just focus on curation side. So that's how I started, back into the law, shall we say. Now, this year was a little bit different because TR had stepped away. So I ummed and ahed as to whether to do it because actually I take a little bit of issue in terms of what you said in terms of, spending time on a weekend. It's not just one weekend, my friend.
Yeah, not for a host anymore.
Right. So I'm a host. So I had to find a venue right? So when my original sponsor left, and we're lucky enough that Cyberport stepped in, and Cory can speak to it,
yeah,
right?
It's really, really cool, Laurence. You'd be really impressed.
Right.
Really cool space.
So it's a government-funded incubation lab promoting innovation here in Hong Kong, and they were willing to step in with a venue. And then in terms of sponsors, I was like, gee whiz, and I had to find sponsors just before the Chinese New Year period, which over here just shuts down. So I sent some emails to some folk, and I said, look, if I get some decent responses, that means I can run this. And I was lucky. I think I sent it to 12 large firms, and at least 7 came forward. Yeah. Including some fairly big names.
Very good names.
So from that point of view, to me, it's so critical that lawyers are able and willing to embrace new mindsets in terms of the way law is operating. When I was working and continue to work in RegTech and FinTech, I was invited by B schools to speak to MBAs to say, whoa, if you want to join an investment bank, think again, FinTech's going to change it. Then I was invited to law school, says, whoa, if you think you're just going to join a big firm, think again, there's AI and blockchain and technology. Sure. Legal tech's going to change it. So these are some of the reasons why I thought it was important, not just in terms of bringing together the educational side for students, but also helping with the journey in relation to the profession itself. So Cory can speak to some of the people I was able to invite over here from the bit large firms and their legal innovation labs, but also to me, the regulators. So we've had, Hong Kong regulators and the Department of Justice were one of our judges. So to me, I'm about building ecosystems, and this was a great platform which to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Cory, we'll adjust maybe the question for you a little bit. I mean, obviously, you work with Integra Ledger, and you guys put on the Global Legal Hackathon. But so we know why you're there. But we've been sharing your posts online, and you're making all these wonderful connections across the world. Some new friendships. So maybe let's talk about that. Like how many people and all the different cities, and just it seems like something that is so. It
really is. It's taken on a life of its own, and for me, you do, and you spend time with these individuals, be it the hosts and or even some of the participants. And I've had the opportunity to mentor a few of the teams along the way, and you really do become vested in these people, and to watch their ideas kind of come to fruition. For me, it's really kind of a special thing, especially if you've had a chance to mentor with them, and you get to know these people. When you spend 3 days with people, long days, and you eat with them and talk with them, you really do form bonds and friendships. And I've been really, really fortunate. Obviously, last year I was able to be in Israel, so this was my second year going back there. And so it was really like coming home to see friends and see family, and coming back.
It is a community, isn't it?
It is. It really is a community. So aside from the actual solutions that come out of it, I think that the community that it builds really is what makes it at least exciting for me to continue to make the long journey around the world. When I have friendly faces, meeting me.
And it's a tough job though, huh?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think anybody that hosts needs.
No, I meant traveling around the world.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
No. I know. Laurence, you say, you share a lot of the posts and stuff, and I do. I get to meet lots of amazing people and really form really good friendships. But I kind of laugh when people are like, you have the best job ever. And you know what? I really do. But you're seeing the snippets of good stuff. You don't see the 56 hours that I spent on a plane to see all these people. But honestly, I really do enjoy it.
But it means a lot. I just want to interject that it means a lot for us as hosts.
Yeah.
Because especially for us here in Hong Kong, so far away.
Sure. And
have you come over here, it really helps, bring it home in terms of how global, and we are part of this global thing. Right?
Yeah, you are. You really are a part of the global ecosystem, and it's fun.
So there you go, Cory. The more tired you are, the more people enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how exhausted we can get her. As long as you can find good food and good wine, I'm usually your best friend. So.
Well, as you guys know, each of the locations, each of the host cities and host locations, they're putting out challenges for a lot of these groups to come up with a product or service that sort of meets the needs of, at least the needs that they feel are real important. So just, coming out of Hong Kong, Brian, what were some of the challenges laid down for the participants in your neck of the woods?
Well, we didn't do a challenge per se, but what we did specifically do is, again, linked to my own background. And one of the things I thought was important to grow the ecosystem here too is the concept of RegTech. Mm-hmm. So what we actually branded it as was Legal RegTech Hack in conjunction with Global Legal Hackathon. So this allowed me to attract people in the RegTech space as well, because normally if they just saw Global Legal Hackathon and say, well, okay, that's not my peeps.
Right.
But this way, so we did have a few RegTech solutions that came up this time around. But to be honest, while it wasn't my favorite format, I've learned to appreciate the breadth of Global Legal Hackathon. Mm-hmm. Normally with hackathons, as you would know, Laurence, are much more focused so that your outcomes are more tailored. In this case, we really got a penumbra of different kinds of solutions from all over the spectrum, which is great because it's what people felt passionate about.
Yeah. I think that, similar to other areas that I've been, I think it's important that people work on something that when you're looking at building a company is what really these people are looking at doing. And if you're looking for a long-term viable solution, you have to be passionate about it. Otherwise, there's really no way that you're going to walk away from this weekend and go, oh, okay, great. Now I'm going to pick up a new project, because most of these people have day jobs. They have other, passions and or jobs to work on. So for them to take on a brand new project and really make it their own, it's got to be something that they're passionate about.
Yeah, I would agree.
I was just going to say, and then linked to that, one of the things with hackathons is what happens afterwards.
Sure.
Right. And so I think the same way that Global Legal Hackathon is now, I think, trying to build a community around it. That's what we've tried to do here as well. Firstly, through Light, so with a university basis, but, there's certain, that tends to be a little bit more academic or focused on a younger crowd. But we've also just, soft announced LEXi, which the idea being it's an legal tech and reg tech incubator.
Yeah.
So what we would love is after this hackathon around the world, if there are parties who say, look, this is great. I may or may not have one, but I met these great people and we want to build something and we want to go forward. We want to build a platform for those folk who want to build businesses to incubate, right? And we can do on-premise here in Hong Kong, or we can do virtual as well. We're still exploring. Very cool. And would love to work with people who are interested in that. And I'd open that up to your listeners and also the rest of the Global Legal Hackathon after their competitions, wherever they are, whether they won or they didn't. If they they want to continue further, they're interested in incubation and the like, come look us up. So,
that's fantastic. What a great offering, because that is, moving forward after the hackathon, it's like, okay, now what?
Exactly. And that, for some of us who've been through enough of those, hackathons are wonderful in so many different ways, but there are limitations. And so we're trying to bridge that gap. And I was inspired by a separate kind of hackathon that I had seen. And so last week I was working with an accelerator, and that's literally what they did. They created the accelerator on the basis of hackathons around the world and taking the best there. So would love to throw that out to Global Legal Hackathon participants if they want to take it forward. LEXi is the name we came up with. LEX with a little I.
I like it.
And forward to sharing more soon.
Very cool.
Well, we're running short on time, but I just had a couple of quick questions for you guys. Now, you're a little bit more advanced in the cycle here for the hackathon, so your competition is over. So, Brian, who was the winner over from the Hong Kong aspect of the hackathon?
Well, the way we structured it is we had a top public benefit and the top private, the way that Global Legal Hackathon is structured. And then the judges chose the best between those as well. Mm-hmm. And the winner is Access Our Community. So, which is, of course, a pro bono. So it's on the public, of course, public benefit, but they focus on a pro bono platform to allow lawyers and charities to better be able to interact with one another. And they're trying to do this through a social enterprise, so it becomes a sustainable model. Mm-hmm. And I think, what's pleasing about that is really builds on the success for Hong Kong, because as you would know, Laurence, we were so pleased when our top Hong Kong team, Decoding Law, made it to the finals last year. Wow, so exciting. Half of them were students, half were developers. They went to New York to that lovely venue you mentioned, and then they won. So we have that to live up to, and we have great hopes for this team as well.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing their work. So last question for both of you. If our listeners, they want to reach out, ask some questions, maybe get involved at next year's hackathon, how can they reach you? Let's start with Cory.
So my email is Cory@integraledger.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. And Brian?
Sure. I was trying to think about which best way to contact me. So I guess the Light initiative we have at Hong Kong U, it's lite.law.hku.hk. So that's the community we're building there. But if you want to contact me more directly, especially in relation to LEXi, so it's LEXi at ACMI.com.
Well, we've reached the end of the road for today's episode, but I want to thank our guests for joining us today. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Cory.
Thank you.
We also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review us in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting app. I'm Laurence Colletti, signing off from the 2019 Global Legal Hackathon. Until next time, thank you for listening.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.